What translation of the Bible should you be reading? That's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Steve. This is Claiming Christianity. Let's get into it. So this channel started with Bible reviews. It's one of the things we've done the most here. And a question that I often get from Christians is, what is the best translation of the Bible? Or which one should I be reading? And I'm going to answer that for you right now. If you asked me that question very simply and we were in an elevator and I had 1 minute, I would say, I'm not even going to make you wait till the end. I would say the ESV, the English Standard Version of the Bible. Do I think it's the absolute best of all time? No. But do I think that it, pound for pound, is the best translation on the market? Yes, I do. I think that the ESV Bible, the ESV translation, is a solid, easy to read translation that is very reliable and trustworthy. And the carryover from Greek and Hebrew to our language of English. As you know, when you're going from one language to another, that's hard to do sometimes because not every word translates. I think that they have done a good job. And the ESV is a formal equivalent translation. So if you had to have only one, I would say ESV. Now, I want to qualify that somewhat. It's not really a qualification by saying I don't read the ESV all that often. That's not 100% accurate, but my go-to daily driver translation is the New King James Version. The NKJV is also a solid translation, but there's always other factors that comes up in what should my Bible be? What translation should I be reading? Well, one of the factors for me is A, it needs to be a formal equivalent translation. I actually have a couple other videos I'll link down in the description that talk about the difference between formal equivalents and dynamic equivalents. So it's got to be a good word-for-word translation. But a second factor for me is, what does my church read? What does your church read? If your church reads the ESV, that's probably what you should be reading. If your church reads the NKJV, that's probably what you should be reading. I switched over to the NKJV when I ended up going to the church that I'm at now, which we've been at for years. The pastor preaches from the NKJV. Most of the church members read from the New King James. So it just makes sense that I not only read, but now I teach classes and preach from that translation. And the NKJV is also a solid biblical translation. So if you've got to make a decision, I would say stick with a formal equivalent. Again, go check out the video on the difference between formal equivalents and dynamic equivalents. But I would say stick with your top. There's like 4 or 5 formal equivalents. That would be the New American Standard Bible, and my caveat to that would be 1995 text edition or earlier. The LSB also falls into that category. The Legacy Standard Bible, that's kind of John MacArthur's team's new Bible, and it's based on the New American Standard translation. Then you'd have the ESV, the English Standard Version, the NKJV, or the King James Version. Now, don't get me wrong. If you read and love your KJV, your King James Version Bible, I'm super stoked for you, but that is really difficult language to wade through to have as your actual study Bible. So again, I'm going to repeat this. Go get yourself an ESV. Now, I want to put a little caveat to this, or a little qualifier, and that would be the dynamic equivalents that I like. And they're not really dynamic equivalents. So I want to give kind of honorable mentions to the NET, the New English Translation, and the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. I love the Christian Standard Bible. They call themselves, put out by Holman, a optimal equivalent because it falls somewhere between the dynamic equivalent and the formal equivalent. And it really is pretty optimal. I think the translators have done a really good job of bridging the gap, and in the areas that it's difficult to translate words, they've done a good job there while sticking as close to word for word as possible. I often read the CSB if I'm going to be reading at length, or, reading multiple chapters, multiple verses at a time, just because it's pleasant to read and I like the translation I do think that it's solid, but in this guy's opinion, you should be sticking with a formal equivalent translation. That doesn't mean that I don't like dynamic equivalents. It just means that somebody else is doing the work. And if you're an English speaker, every tool has a job, right? But if you're an adult English speaker, there's no reason you can't be reading the ESV or the NKJV. Even the Legacy Standard Bible. There's no reason you can't be reading those, my friends. So I leave you with this. No matter what translation you're reading, you got to open it up and read it. Thank you for watching today. Here are a few other videos you might be interested in. And if you found value in this video and would like to see more, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. This content is brought to you by the love and support of its viewers. So thank you so much for making it possible. Be blessed.